TNT owner Warner Brothers does have matching rights, so the NBA will see if they will match the total value of NBC's deal once it's complete. Chilly showers no longer. Say goodbye to icy plunges and hello to heat with AndersonPHA.com. Upgrade your water heater and get a free water pressure regulator valued at $1,300. That's AndersonPHA.com.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's John Schaefer.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? It's hour one of Jon and Jim. It is day one without Jim. We've got me and Brent hanging out with you for the next 3 hours. If you're wondering, you can't be wondering. If you've ever heard this show, you cannot be wondering where Jim is. We've spent more time talking about his wedding than the amount of time he has been engaged to Aaron. Like, I feel like we started the conversation about his wedding when he was just dating. Like, he wasn't even dating Aaron at the time. We've spoken on the wedding longer than Jon and Jim, which I think has been on the air for 2.5 years. Yet Aaron and Jim have only known each other for 2 years. So Jim is off for the rest of the week. Now, when you ask Jim, when you kind of press Jim on what is he doing, and by the way, Kyle Glaser, Baseball America, will join us. We know Xander Bogaerts is out for the foreseeable future. He'll join us coming up in 5 minutes. Then I'm excited to talk to BJ Davis, San Diego State freshman guard entering his sophomore year. He'll join us coming up at 3:30 today. We'll talk some San Diego State hoops. And, of course, we've got you covered for Padres and Reds coming up later on this hour as well. You know, if you press Jim on what he's doing, Brent, the next 3 days, he doesn't have a lot of answers. It sounds like Aaron is doing everything. She's picking up dresses. She's organizing this wedding. And Jim's like, well, I'm playing golf, and it might be a challenge because a buddy of mine, like, doesn't feel well. So my foursome may only be like a threesome right now for the next couple of days at Torrey Pines. I'm like, I don't feel that bad for you right now.
Yeah, you know, because that's part of the pre-wedding ritual is, you know, the Wednesday golf.
As of course is tradition.
Yeah, exactly. Almost like as it is written. I'm trying to think back to when I got married.
You didn't play golf on that Wednesday?
No, like the big thing when you get married, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that's married that's listening right now, is like you go away after the wedding, right? You got the honeymoon, you take a week off, maybe two, and I guess maybe you take off like the day or two before. That makes sense. You have family coming to town. You've got like logistics you need to organize. But it doesn't seem like Jim has taken off for the logistics or the organizing. It seems like he's off because he wants to play golf for the next 3 days. So anyway, we'll be here for you for the next 3 hours. Let's start with the story.
I was just going to say, but Rich McGuire on chat just took it away. She has him out golfing to get him out of the way. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm with you, Rich.
I think that's probably accurate. So if you missed it in the update, if you haven't been following the story over, I'd say the last 2 hours, Xander Bogaerts, unfortunately, what we feared has now occurred. You're hoping, well, maybe it's just a strain. And they said the initial imaging didn't look bad. Well, there's a break. So the initial imaging likely would have shown that. And now he's going on the IL. And it is a significant setback personally for Bogaerts. I think Kevin Acey writing, you're talking about at least 2 months. Xander Bogaerts saying he doesn't believe it's a season ender and that he could return in the late summer. I mean, late summer. Summer goes until September. Now, we understand that Bogaerts has not had a good year and truthfully has not really had a good 2 years since signing with the Padres prior to the 2023 season. But I don't think that alone is a reason to think, well, it's easily overcome. The guy hasn't hit and he hasn't really, quote unquote, helped this team get to where they are, which is actually a game under 500. But to really reach your ceiling, like, don't we all agree with this? How many times have you heard Jim say that the big three need to be the big three? Well, all of a sudden that's become the big two. Yeah, you've added Luis Ariz. Yes, you have legitimate starting pitching, the acquisition of Dylan Cease, the way Yu Darvish has pitched this year as well. But you weren't getting productivity by and large out of these three players, Bogaerts, Machado, and Tatis. Now, maybe you're putting additional onus on Tatis and Machado. And again, hopefully he's not lost for the year. And it's not like, the funny thing is, I mean, it's crazy to say this. It's not like you lost Jurickson Profar. It's crazy to say that about Profar, but he deserves it. He's been one of the best players in the National League. So they've had many more players on the team that have been more productive. Profar, Cronenworth, others, right, in there. But I feel as if for the Padres to reach their full potential, and you could say this about a lot of teams when it comes to health, you probably not only needed Bogaerts, but you needed Bogaerts to perform. This team has not yet lived up to expectations, even with some of the indicators we've talked about working out better than they did in 2023. Like, how many times have we said, man, they've scored all these, I've had all these big innings, and they've had come from behind wins, and they've had great pitching here recently from Yu Darvish, and Dylan Cease has been a revelation. And wow, they traded for Luis Ariz, who's hit 360 in a Padres uniform. But at the end of the day, they're 25 and 26. And I don't think they've got a better chance to be better without Xander Bogaerts. Like, it's as simple as that for me. I don't think they have a better chance to be better without Xander Bogaerts. Can it be overcome? Yeah, absolutely. And maybe you credit A.J. Preller, not necessarily for foresight, but he did add Luis Ariz, who's a second baseman, not near a defender as others, maybe even on the Padres. And now defense does become a significant question mark as well for San Diego. But Bogaerts out for the foreseeable future. What impact does it have on the Padres? How will they overcome it? Let's catch up with Kyle Glaser, formerly of Baseball America. Such a great resource for fans of the Padres and Major League and Minor League Baseball. He's back with us right now, Jon and Jim. San Diego Sports 760. So, Kyle, we've been talking about it since we learned the news that Xander Bogaerts is out. He's got a shoulder fracture. It appears as if it is a significant injury. Obviously, a fracture could be multiple months, if not more than that. Just first glance from a Padres perspective from here on out, what is the impact of not having Bogaerts available for, let's say, the next couple of months?
Yeah, look, obviously you never want anyone to get hurt. As much as Bogaerts has been struggling, he's still someone that, we've seen can put a charge into a ball and impact the game with one swing. So it's obviously unfortunate. I will say the Luis Ariz trade really does look even better now. It looks great from the outset. He's at 359, but this gives the Padres some options. Realistically, you probably like Cronenworth at second more than Ariz, and you put Ariz at first, but they have some options where you look at it and say, as much as you never want anyone to get injured, they are in good shape to withstand it, given their current roster construction post-Ariz trade.
How do you see the usage of David Peralta? Do you expect Peralta to have something still in the tank here at this point in his career? And what will his usage be, considering this is an injury in the infield and he's going to be playing in the outfield, presumably?
Yeah, whether or not, Peralta has anything left in the tank, I think that's TBD. I will say, what you've always liked about David Peralta is you're going to get good, high-quality professional at-bats from the left side. The results were not very good with the Dodgers last year. And even the year prior, you saw the effects of age dropping off. I mean, he is in his mid-30s now. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, David Peralta at age 36 is going to come up and necessarily be a huge difference maker for the Padres. At the same time, you never know. If he can give them some good at-bats against, some good matchups that work well for him and, help give the outfield some rest days, some of those guys a little bit of time off, it's going to help. But I think it's going to be more you hope it's a complimentary kind of assistance as opposed to this guy's going to come up and be a star right away.
Kyle Glaser with us right now, Jon and Jim. Back to Bogaerts for a moment. You think about his first year in a Padres uniform. There were highs and lows. I think some Padres fans looked at it as a disappointment overall. The team went 82 and 80. They weren't really in it September. But he did hit in April. He got out of the gates hot. He hit in September. He had not been hitting. I think he heated up a little bit the last week. He had maybe a 6-game hitting streak before the injury. What have you seen? What were you seeing from Bogaerts? Why has he struggled so mightily, in your opinion, in a Padres uniform before the injury?
I think the thing that's most concerning, and you saw it more in the field, but there's probably some subtle things going on at the plate. He's a little bit slower. He's lost a little bit of athleticism. And while his swing still looks plenty fast, I think anytime you see that in the field, there's probably some subtle things transferring over to the box. I think the concern is now that, look, Xander Bogaerts has been a great player for a long time, but he's a middle infielder in his 30s. He's already had to move off of short. There were some plays at second this year where the lack of lateral agility was really, really concerning. He was not great defensively over there either. I think we're looking at this might be a loss of athleticism as he moves into his 30s, which is obviously a lot more difficult to fix than, just one quick subtle adjustment with his hands or his stance or his swing path.
Kyle, I was, there's been a lot of chatter about the Padres' struggles against left-handed pitching. And sometimes you think, well, left-handed hitting will struggle against left-handed pitching. That's normal. But what's somewhat striking is that the right-handed hitters for the Padres have struggled mightily, well below career averages. I'm talking about Tatis and Machado, even a Bogaerts before he got hurt. I think this is among the worst hitting teams against left-handed pitching in baseball, somewhere around 208. I think they hit 271 a year ago. How do we explain the Padres' struggles against left-handed pitching, specifically with some of their right-handed hitters?
Anytime it's this many guys, it's one thing if it was one guy, but the fact it's this many guys, there's got to be an issue, whether it's approach, whether it's, what they're looking for from left-handers. I think the Padres, it would be a mistake to just dismiss this as a fluke when this many accomplished hitters are struggling so far below their career norms. I think they have to look at it and say, okay, what's going on with our game planning? What's going on with our approach? What's going on with the pitches we're hunting against left-handers? Because this is obviously a problem, and we're past small sample size here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these numbers, like Fernando Tatis Jr. is hitting 150 against left-handed pitching in 50-plus plate appearances. He was like a career 300 hitter against left-handed pitching coming into the year. Obviously, a year ago, Kyle, we talked about the roller coaster, the highs and the lows, and this team, is 25-26. How do you explain that they've been one of the better teams in baseball against good teams? I think they're well over 500 against teams over 500. They've played a lot of games against good teams, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Cubs, the Braves, etc. And then against bad teams or teams under 500, the Rockies, the Reds is a current example. The Padres are well under 500. What does it say about the Padres that they're good against good and bad against bad?
I've talked about it for years, being in that clubhouse, talking to managers. They've been open about it. This team is one that rides the emotional roller coaster a little bit, and they get up for the big games, but way too often they're not where they need to be mentally, focus-wise, for the lesser teams. We saw that even last year. So, and the year before, frankly. This is where some of the veteran leadership needs to step up and say, we got to focus up. We have to approach our games against the Rockies the same way we do against the Dodgers. Look, it's easier said than done. It's a long season. Guys get up, guys get tired. But this has been a consistent problem for the Padres now. This isn't a just this year phenomenon. This is a team that for many years now has done this, where they get up for the big games and then they lose focus and drop games they shouldn't. Again, this is where leadership and management need to step up and make sure these guys are as focused as they need to be day in and day out, no matter who the opponent is.
Similar question. Does it make any sense that they have struggled so mightily at home? They're 10-16 at home. So whatever that means on the road, I mean, they're well over 500 on the road, maybe 4 or 5 games over 500. They're playing in front of 40,000 people every single game, essentially at home, and they're 10-16, among the worst winning percentage at home in baseball. Any explanation for that?
Nothing. Again, you're talking about 26 games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go too crazy over that. Again, they've had some tough home series as well. So I think let's let that play out over the course of the season before we start pinpointing any specific issue at home. They've had some games where they haven't pitched well, some games where they haven't hit well. I think we need to let it play out a little further, get a little more sample size on that.
I think that's fair. Kyle Glaser, formerly Baseball America, with us right now on Jon and Jim. So Joe Musgrove returns yesterday. He labored, to say the least. 66 pitches. Now, 2 unearned runs. He wasn't helped at all by his defense. I think his velocity was kind of comparable to where it's been this year, which I do think is a tick lower than it's been previously in his career. Where are you right now on just the season that Joe Musgrove has had? And is there any concern based on the way last year ended and him going on the IL earlier this year?
Yeah, anytime you have someone coming off a shoulder injury, it's concerning. Yeah. Especially a guy who, again, is moving into his 30s now. At the same time, I do think that, we did see Joe Musgrove have a good start against the Reds before he went on the IL, 6 innings, 2 runs, 9 punch-outs. He had a couple of decent starts right before that as well against the Blue Jays and Brewers. Coming out yesterday, it's a start. So I do think we are seeing a little bit of progress. Obviously, we need to see how he's able to maintain it over longer outings, coming off the IL and building back up. But I will say, yesterday was a start, and 3 of his previous 4 starts before going the IL were okay. So I think we just need to see the progress continue.
Do you think Mike Schilt has found his new 8th inning setup guy in Jeremiah Estrada for Robert Suarez, the way they've kind of used him and the way his effectiveness, how effective he's been to this point?
It certainly seems like it. Look, Jeremiah Estrada, dating back to his days at Palm Desert High School, always had loud stuff. The biggest thing with him was just controlling it, harnessing it, and so far he's done that. The walks are down, he's never lacked for swing and miss stuff, but we saw at times last year, for example, the Cubs, in a limited sample, he had nearly as many walks as strikeouts. If he can continue throwing strikes like he has been, he's the guy in this bullpen with the best stuff to be Robert Suarez, a setup man. We just have to see him continue to throw strikes like he has.
Real quick, Kyle, before you go, I mean, the 30,000-foot view on the Padres for observers, for those that cover it as closely as you do. I mean, they're 25-26, despite the fact that they've got the most 4-run innings in baseball. They've got the most 4-run comeback wins in baseball. Like, they've done some things really well, but they're 25-26. What would this what does this team need to show you in order to kind of go on a run? I mean, what's lacking here from this team to go 8-2 over a 10-game stretch?
Consistency and focus, which, we've talked about in past years. There's been some holes at the bottom of the lineup, been some holes at the back of the rotation, and that's certainly true now. But we've seen this team is capable of playing with the best teams in baseball, the Dodgers. But they've got to stay focused. And we've talked about this. It's the team that rides the emotional roller coaster. They have been for years, and they've got to figure out a way to be more consistent, even it out. It's a long season, and looking good for 1 week, 2 weeks, even 3 weeks isn't going to cut it. They're going to have to play well for really the remaining 4 months, 5 months, if you will. And they haven't really shown us they can put together a consistent stretch like that. And that's what has to change for them to reach their full potential.
Great insight and perspective, and a great follow for Padres fans on X or Twitter. Kyle A. Glaser, at Kyle A. Glaser. That's GLASER, formerly with Baseball America. Kyle, we always appreciate your time here on San Diego Sports 760. Hope to do it again at some point in June, and thanks for hopping on.
Absolutely. Happy to join you anytime.
All right. Great stuff from Kyle Glaser. Again, San Diego State sophomore guard heading into a sophomore year. BJ Davis will join us coming up at 3:30. We'll talk about the Aztecs as they prepare for the upcoming fall. Listen, I mean, I think Kyle said it really well. I think I saw on social media at some point within the last 24 hours, if you go, there was a date in 2022 when the Padres got off to that really good start, Brent. They started really well, and then they kind of fizzled out. They were a 500 team, and then they played really well in the postseason. They won a couple of series. They beat the Dodgers. We all know the story, but there's a date when they were playing really good baseball in 2022, and you fast forward to today, and they're a 500 team since. So you're talking about the better part of 2 years, something like from late May 2022 until today, late May 2024, where you've got this 500 team. And we've tried to put our finger on as to why, right? You've spent money. You've acquired highly sought after players. You've been relevant, certainly within the sport. And you think that they're capable of more than they've given you. And even this team, it's like, oh, this doesn't feel like 2023. And then you look up, well, hold on, they have the exact same record as they had in 2023. So, like, what's it going to take here, folks? Now, I wouldn't think, by the way, Brent, it gets easier without Xander Bogaerts. I know he hasn't hit, but I wouldn't think that all of a sudden reaching your goals have gotten, quote unquote, easier without Bogaerts.
Not unless somebody just gets hot at just the right time. If we just luck out and, Peralta plays his best baseball right now, and then just fades off for the rest of the year. But yeah, it's nothing is ever easy with the Padres, though. So in a way, I was surprised at the 2 months, but I was not surprised to find out that oh no, it doesn't look that bad. And it's like, it was kind of like the Clevenger thing all over again of, hey, good news, we signed Mike Clevenger. Bad news, he's hurt and he's out for the rest of the season. It's kind of like,
signed him to a 2-year deal. He's going to miss next year, though, with Tommy John.
Yeah, it's no, hey, good news. We think it's mostly negative, and it's like, as in a positive. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, he's out 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest.
Maybe All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, listen, people theorized on, you look at the way this injury occurred, and you see some other shoulder injuries around baseball, and there's guys that have missed like full seasons over shoulders. Trevor Story is a recent example. But then they said, in the immediate aftermath, hey, the imaging looks good, and right now he's day-to-day, and we'll see how he deals with the swelling. I was a little bit caught off guard. Not that he went on the IL. If someone would have told me shoulder strain a week or 2 or 3, and he'll be back from it, that wouldn't have been overly surprising. If someone would have told me, hey, he's day-to-day, and he dodged the worst of it, and he's back in the lineup in a couple of days, I wouldn't have been surprised. But 2+ months is really, I mean, that's tough. Even if you think that there's a possibility of it, and even though he really has struggled, I mean, there's no question about it. He really has struggled. To be without a 2-time champion that you gave $280 million to, that's in his prime, and you're going to miss him for multiple months, that's a tough pill to swallow.
And it seemed like he was maybe starting to turn a corner a little
Yes,
bit. You know,
yes.
once he switched to what is his axe handle bat.
That's right.
He started hitting a couple homers and getting, stuff that wasn't singles.
Yes.
So once again, is another one of those things where, oh hey, he might be finally starting to turn the corner. Nope, he's hurt. He's done.
All right, so we'll continue to react to the news that Xander Bogaerts has been placed on the IL with a fractured shoulder as we lead you up to Padres and Reds. But on the other side, B.J. Davis, Aztec, entering his sophomore year, playing for Brian Dutcher on the Mesa. We're going to catch up with him on the other side. I don't think he's really been with us previously on San Diego Sports 760. Got some opportunities in the NCAA tournament this past year. Highly sought after young guard out of high school that will play a prominent role for the Aztecs, you would think, this upcoming season. B.J. Davis will join us next on Jon and Jim.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure, having me on the show. From my perspective, it was great. I learned a lot, having those veterans in front of me, just picking up on their habits every day, seeing what they do, what works, and really just being able to soak it all in. Like that was a huge blessing for me, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Mhm. I think just my how I approach the game and my seriousness. I think that's really going to be my main thing I focus on and try to really make sure that I bring every day, make sure my energy is always there, and just having that type of stuff down. Mhm. Well, I wanted to, hang out with my family a bit just for a few weeks, kind of just decompress. But now it's back into the full swing of things. So I'm really just making sure that I'm more poised than ever. So I'm ready for any opportunity that comes my way. Just really, yeah, just really locked in on the little things. Oh, no problem. Mhm. I just want to, wherever I can help the team out the most. That's the role I want to just be that guy that gives it his all and inspires his team to give it their all as well. So just being that guy that motivates everybody and gets the best out of them. That's really what I want to do. Yeah, that's really how, I got on the floor in high school. I wasn't the biggest, strongest guy, so I had to, take it kind of personal and step out there with a chip on my shoulder and tell myself, all right, this dude's not scoring on me. And I think just having that mindset, it got me to this position that I am today in. Mhm. It was surreal, just growing up as a kid, watching it on TV every year, and then you being out there. It's like, whoa, like, this is really it. So it was honestly like a full circle moment. Just what they pride themselves on. And Coach Luster was telling me that, you know, it being easy isn't always the best route. And that really stuck with me and that resonated with me. So I kind of took that and that's how I kind of went about it. I talked with my family, of course, and I have family down here, and some of my family was actually originated from here. So, and it was just a no brainer for me, honestly. Mhm. Oh man, it's honestly it's everything because we get to build community and they help us out financially. So it's honestly the best of both worlds, if you ask me. And just what we do for the community, how it can bring people together is honestly like no better feeling than that. Like it's really oh, I trust them 1,000%. They've been in they've been in situations to where they've got plenty of experience. So I trust anything that they do or say. So just putting full faith in them and understanding that they have a plan and be willing to follow that by any cost. Yeah, it's honestly it's a great relationship. It's like my brother at this point. So we went through it together, and the rest of the freshman or my freshman class going into our sophomore year, we became real close, like brothers. It feels like I knew those guys for 10+ years, but it's only been a year. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, definitely. Lamont, Micah, Jaden Ledee, those guys they're like my big brothers, and plenty more. So just really, I was asking them a lot of questions, and they was giving me great insight on the process and what it takes to be great here specifically. So definitely, for sure, no question. Uh, well, I'll be heading home tomorrow, and then I'll be back in San Diego on Tuesday, next Tuesday. So, and then just back to work. Thank you.
I think that's something that they've needed, though, because part of their problem last couple of years is they'll get guys in scoring position, and a base hit would drive in 2 runs, but they got in their head that nope, I got to hit a 500-foot home run and bring in all these runs, or I'm going to strike out. There's no in between, and he's just a pure contact hitter to where if there's guys on base, he's just going to get a base hit and drive them in. He doesn't have to do anything fancy.
To keep Juan Soto. Listen to this from today from John Heyman on Juan Soto.
But here's a fact that I'm not sure everybody knows. Not only did the Nats try for a 15-year, $440 million deal, which is 29.33 going on forever, infinity, 29.33 million. There were 6 other tries. He had 7 offers over the past 5+ years to stay with the team that he was on. He didn't take any of them. And now he's closer than ever to free agency. So I will be stunned. I will actually be stunned. I'm going to go to shock. I'm going to be stunned if the Yankees are able to get this done in season. Like I said, I think after the season, I think they have a decent shot. I think the Mets have a shot. I think he'll probably stay in New York one way or the other. But in season, not going to be easy to get that done.
So even the New York Yankees, so that's fascinating. First of all, Juan Soto turned down 7 contract offers from the Washington Nationals. That alone is remarkable. Obviously, he wasn't even offered something. I mean, maybe they talked about it here. I know A.J. Preller kind of beat around the bush. He was traded before his final year. So obviously, they didn't have a good feeling about extending him out, clearly. And now you're with the New York Yankees, arguably as rich of a franchise as there is in the sport. Yet they still may not have the opportunity to extend him out. So he's been patiently waiting through this first deal, this first 6 years through arbitration to get to free agency. He's now like 100 games away from it, right? And maybe he ends up with the Yankees once he hits free agency, or like he said, maybe he ends up with the New York Mets. He's had a very good start to this year. What on earth is this contract going to look like for a player that turned down $440 million? Who knows, maybe even more than that at one point. I mean, what type of offer are we looking at? What will he, quote unquote, settle for once he hits free agency?
I'm wondering if either of those New York teams will try and pull a Dodgers and, we're going to defer 99% of that contract to X date. So then we can give you the,
500.
Yeah, give you the new biggest contract until the next one. And then we'll not have to worry about it for 5 years.
He's had, again, I mean, is anyone surprised? Again, he probably didn't do this as a Padre, but he's done it as a Yankee. He's hit over 300. He's got a 947 OPS. So OPS plus 166 or 66% better than league average. I mean, he's had this brilliant year. And oh, by the way, he's 25. So he'll hit free agency as a 26-year-old. Now, I don't know what's possible. I mean, Ohtani, yes, he's a bit of a unicorn because theoretically, I think he's going to pitch again, I think. And he got the $700 million. And like Brent said, he had also the unicorn contract where he's getting $2 million per year, and then everything's deferred. I mean, is 500 realistic for a guy that obviously isn't going to play 2 ways and is a darn good player? But $500 million is, of course, crazy. So he said no to 440. What's he going to say yes to? I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch play out. And obviously, the Padres didn't have that kind of money. I know Peter Seidler at one point said you can't take it with you, right? We've never feared the big contract, and that's true. I mean, they signed some huge contracts over the last few years under Peter Seidler's watch. But at some point you got to almost say no. I mean, is anyone really going to say, hey, he's worth 500, he's worth $600 million? That doesn't fit into the budget.
Well, that's one of the differences between the Yankees and the Padres, though. The Yankees have so much money that they can afford to overpay, for him. And if they doesn't pan out, they're fine because they still have enough money. That's always been my argument when I get into arguments with the Brewers fans about the Cubs is, look, we have more money than you guys. So if we overpay for like the Jason Hayward contract, it's okay because we'll be all right because we can afford to overpay for something if it doesn't work out. Unlike you guys who are on a limited budget, if you can't, you can't work things out like that, like they can. So I think the Yankees and the Mets would have more money to overpay if they would have to just to get him.
And the other thing that the Padres tried to address, and we could argue if they have or not, was by trading Juan Soto, you're not paying him all that money and taking up that portion of the payroll, but you're also getting pieces back that theoretically round out your team. Now, you could argue if they've done that. Michael King has been up and down. He's pitching tonight. He just allowed a solo home run, so they're tied at 1 through 1 inning. Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez are projects right now for the Padres, and Kyle Higashioka is a backup catcher, which serves a role, but again, you traded away Juan Soto. So it's twofold. You're not going to be able to afford the $40-50 million per year. You also had other needs. It's arguable whether they fully address those or not. And what Juan Soto ultimately gets is going to be probably the biggest number in the history of baseball for a non-two-way player like Shohei Ohtani, a unicorn player. For a position player, I mean, you're probably looking at something like $500 million. We'll kick off hour 2 on the other side with the wrap. Also in the second hour of the show, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the brothers Osborne at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater on May 29th. And of course, back to this question, can the Padres overcome a long-term injury to Xander Bogaerts? He will miss at least 2 months with a shoulder fracture. It's hour 2 of Jon and Jim, and it's next.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Padres will be without Xander Bogaerts for at least 2 months as tests have revealed a fracture in his left shoulder, and he was placed on the IL today. The Padres called up veteran David Peralta, who they signed last week. The Padres are currently tied at 1 with the Reds in the top of the 2nd inning. It's Michael King on the hill for the Padres and former Padre Nick Martinez going for Cincinnati. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between the Mavericks and the Timberwolves is tonight at 5 p.m. And in other NBA news, the NBA is formalizing contracts this week with Disney, NBC, and Amazon for a new rights deal that would begin with the 2025-26 season. NBC is closing in on taking over TNT's package for $2.6 billion a year. And if that does happen, that would mean the end of TNT's beloved Inside the NBA show. TNT owner Warner Brothers Discovery does have a chance to match the rights, so we'll see if they match the total value of the NBC's deal once it's complete. Chilly showers, no longer. Say goodbye to icy plunges and hello to heat with AndersonPHA.com. Upgrade your water heater and get a free water pressure regulator valued at $1,300. That's AndersonPHA.com.
KTB-FM HD2 San Diego. San Diego Sports. 760. America's finest sports station.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Padres will be without Xander Bogaerts for at least 2 months, as tests have revealed a fracture in his left shoulder, and he was placed on the IL today. The Padres called up veteran David Peralta, who they signed last week. The Padres are currently tied at 1 with the Reds in the top of the second inning. It's Michael King on the hill for the Padres and former Padre Nick Martinez going for Cincinnati. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between the Mavericks and the Timberwolves is tonight at 5 p.m. And in other NBA news, the NBA is formalizing contracts this week with Disney, NBC, and Amazon for a new rights deal that would begin with the 2025-26 season. NBC is closing in on taking over TNT's package for $2.6 billion a year. And if that does happen, that would mean the end of TNT's beloved Inside the NBA show. TNT owner Warner Brothers Discovery does have a chance to match the rights, so we'll see if they match the total value of NBC's deal once it's complete. Chilly showers, no longer. Say goodbye to icy plunges and hello to heat with AndersonPHA.com. Upgrade your water heater and get a free water pressure regulator valued at $1,300. That's AndersonPHA.com.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's John Schaefer.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of Jon and Jim. We'll be here with you until 6 o'clock tonight. No Jim. He's playing golf, which, of course, is how you get ready for weddings, right? So Jim is getting married on Saturday. We will have reaction to the wedding on Tuesday. Of course, Monday is Memorial Day. Both me and Brent will be there this weekend. We're looking forward to it. Can I speak for you, Brent? Are you looking forward to Saturday's wedding?
Yes.
I can't hear you. I will be able to.
Yes.
Okay, so Brent is looking
It's like
forward.
Jim's still here. I don't turn my mic on.
Right. So here's the thing. So we talked about this briefly over the last year in preparation for this wedding. You're not, and this is probably not saying it the proper way, you're not typically a guy to get dressed up. What I should be saying is you don't get dressed up.
No.
So is this one of these things that it's like a stay tuned, like it's a tease? We're going to see what you wear when we see you on Saturday?
I'll be dressed up for me.
Okay. That's
good.
good.
I'm not wearing like a tie or a suit jacket or anything.
Well, you don't need to.
No, I bought a new polo and
all right.
I bought dress pants.
We're going to have to take a photo.
And I didn't buy dress shoes. My mom's like, "Are you going to buy dress shoes?" I was like, "No." I was like, "I'll never wear them again." I said, "I'm not going to buy dress shoes to just leave them sit." So I bought a nice brand new white pair of Nikes.
Okay.
Like blind your eyes white. I haven't even worn them. They've been sitting in the box for a week. So
all right. So you have everything you need.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm good.
All right. So Jim's wedding, we'll have a full report on Tuesday. He's got, I don't even know what he's doing this week, as we've been saying. I know that he posted at some point on social media he's playing golf and it looked like a nice time. And I think he's doing that again maybe tomorrow. And then it's wedding weekend. So single Jim, and he made a good point yesterday, and it's rare when we say that, but the point he made was like, why does everyone say like it's your last week as a single man? He's like, I'm engaged. I'm like, it is a fair point. It's not like you're really quote unquote single. He's got a fiance. I mean, what's he gonna do?
Yeah,
with
but
a fiance.
There's a difference between being engaged and it being official, and you're actually married, though.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I buy that. That's fair. That's fair.
There's still time to turn back if you're engaged. If you're married, you're there.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna get to the wrap in a moment. This hour again, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Brothers Osborne. This is at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater, May 29th. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. Again, if you missed it, and we'll get to the wrap in a moment, but Xander Bogaerts is not only on the IL, he's going to be on the IL for a while. Now, it could be multiple months. He's got a fractured shoulder, a fractured left shoulder. This occurred.
Little ouchie?
Yeah, it is beyond a little ouchie.
It's a medium ouchie.
This is going to an
little
oh
ouchie?
no. This is a real oh no. You're talking multiple months. You got to have the bone heal. Is there ligament damage? Who even knows? Then you're going to have to rehab the injury. You're going to have to then go on rehab, right? At some point, some type of rehab stint in the minor leagues before returning. So I have no idea what we're looking at. Are we looking at, I mean, even 2 months from now, and maybe that's overly optimistic. You're looking at after the All-Star game. If it's something more like, I don't know, 3 months. You're talking about September. I mean, if you fast forward 3 months from now, you're about a week away from September. So they're going to have to figure things out. Is it impossible to overcome? Of course it isn't. This was not a guy that was playing a large role in this team's quote unquote success, even though they're still under 500 at 25-26. I still stand by what I've been saying here over the last 24, 48 hours, which is for the team to reach its potential and ceiling, they not only need Xander Bogaerts healthy, they need him playing to his potential. And we did see briefly a year ago what it meant for the team when he played well. Padres' best baseball a year ago was early April. I think they were 17-14 or 18-15 at one point. Xander Bogaerts played very well last April. He hit the ball very well last April. And then when they were out of it, he played his best baseball of the season in September. And the Padres were one of the best teams in baseball in September. Now, the caveat being they weren't in it when he was playing his best baseball last September. So we know what he's capable of. We know they're better off when he plays to his ability. And now the big three's become the big two. And you're asking a lot out of Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. Or maybe you're not asking a lot, but you're asking for them to be the players they are capable of being as well. The good news recently here, Manny's had a couple of good days. Yeah, he was 0 for 4 yesterday, but he was 5 for 12 his last 3 games in Atlanta. He's already doubled tonight in Cincinnati. Toddy, it's been a little confounding, and he's been going through it, beyond a little. I mean, he has been going through it here during portions of the month of May. But again, it's like you already had pressure on Manny and Toddy and Bogey. Does the pressure, Brent, ramp up, ratchet up now that Bogaerts is no longer here, even though he wasn't quote unquote producing?
A little bit, because somebody's going to have to pick up the slack. So I don't think there won't be as much pressure on Peralta and what other player they're going to have to kind of combo in to make up for X not being there. So I don't know if there's more pressure on them. I think if anything, it's going to be more pressure on Manny and Tatis and the other remaining big two or whatever you'd want to call them now that X is on the shelf, so they're not the big three. But I think there's going to be more pressure on them to perform to pick up the slack, because most people are going to go, well, okay, we need somebody to pick it up, and we're going to look to you guys because you're supposed to be the leaders and the best players on the team.
I agree with you. By the way, tomorrow programming announcement, the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, Gloria Nevarez, will join us in the 4:00 hour at 4:30. So the commissioner of the Mountain West, Jim's not here. I figured I could get the Mountain West commissioner on.
I was going to say, that's probably why she came.
Yeah, because otherwise it would just be me asking questions and Jim sitting next to me. So we'll have the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, Gloria Nevarez, joining us tomorrow at 4:30. Again, we have those Brothers Osborne tickets that we'll give away for May 29th, which is a week from tonight. So a chance to win tickets for a concert a week from tonight at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater on May 29th. But right now, let's get to this.
Was it a good idea for the Mountain West to move its conference title game from Saturday to Friday night?
Okay, so this is one of the reasons why Gloria Nevarez will join us tomorrow. Fox announced today a full slate of Friday night college football that includes a Friday night Mountain West championship game at, I think, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific, late in the year, right? To kick off conference championship weekend, which, by the way, has added emphasis this year. Why? Because someone out of the group of 5 is going to the college football playoff, because there's 12 spots for the expanded playoff. One of those schools, if not more, but at least one team will be coming out of the group of 5, could very well be the Mountain West champion. I'm not opposed to it because you get the bright lights solely focused on you. Now, it's a shorter week playing on a Friday as opposed to a Saturday, but it kicks off again a new era where you've got the expanded playoff. And let's say the Mountain West has a top 25 team, whomever it is. Maybe it's San Diego State, maybe it's Boise State, whomever. And let's say one of those teams, SDSU, Boise State, whomever, is basically a win or in scenario away from the college football playoff. I think you get eyeballs. I think you get a lot of eyeballs on that game. So traditionally, you're thinking Saturday. The Pac-12 used to play a lot of Friday night championship games. Now the Mountain West is going to take that, viewing spot, so to speak. So, yeah, I think it's a reasonably good idea. I don't know if there's, if it's completely black or white, like it's an amazing idea on a Friday and a terrible idea on a Saturday. But Brent, I'm not opposed to them playing on a Friday night.
I'm not either. I kind of like the idea that we'd be the the only show in town for that one night, opposed to having to share it, especially with, would have to share with like one of the bigger conferences.
Right. If you're playing at the same time as, I'll just make it up, maybe the ACC.
Yeah.
Or the Big Ten, which is very
exactly.
positive. I mean, in previous years, that's basically what's occurring, I think. Maybe making it up. ESPN's airing the SEC championship game. At the same time, maybe Fox is airing the Mountain West championship game, but you're going up against the SEC. So this will give you that standalone window where, again, with a spot potentially on the line to make an expanded college football playoff, I think will draw viewers in. Next question.
Who's going to win game 1 of tonight's Western Conference final?
This game's at the Target Center in Minneapolis, right?
Yes.
I think Minnesota wins this game. I think home court obviously matters in the NBA. So
does it though?
Well, I mean,
there's been a lot of road warriors this year.
The
Pacers won on the road. Technically, the Nuggets lost on they had home court.
Fair. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. I just think that the T-Wolves coming back from 3-2 down. I mean, do they lay an egg coming off that Game 7 win? There's always that concern as well. Obviously, the Pacers, we'll get into that in a moment, kind of laid an egg yesterday in Game 1, had that golden opportunity against Boston. I'll say T-Wolves hold home court, hold serve on their home floor tonight. But now that we talked through it, I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if they have a letdown.
I think they might have a little bit of a letdown just because, they beat the number 1 overall seed in the playoff. Well, number 2, I guess, because
Oklahoma. Oh, I'm sorry.
Or not. Well, they beat the defending champs. So
right.
I think they might have a letdown from that.
All right. What do we have for our next question?
What do you think about the new experimental first down marker potentially coming soon to the NFL? They're testing it in the preseason.
Yeah, I may need you to explain it to me. As we know that this multi-billion-dollar sport right now just has a guy or a woman place the ball, and then they determine how close or how far away it is from a first down, right? They take a ball. Your knee might have been down at the 29. They place it at the 29.5. And 29.5 might be enough for a first down. The 29 wasn't. So to make it maybe a little more, I don't know, precise, modernized. I mean, this is this billion-dollar entity, the biggest sport in America. It seemingly makes sense, but will they be able to execute it properly? I guess would be my number one concern.
My question is it going to be like one of those things where, you'll watch the game and the play clock will run down to 0 and then they'll snap the ball and they'll go, oh, but that's okay because that's not actually an accurate play clock. So don't go by that. And, they have the imaginary, the first down line that's on TV, but they'll also tell you, oh, yes, that's not accurate either. We got to bring the chains out. So what's going to make the new, digital line accurate compared to the other two that they say is not accurate?
Yeah, again, I think in theory,
and they're still going to use the chains for a backup, they said.
Right. Again, in theory, I think it sounds really good. In practicality, I need to see how it's executed. I thought in theory, replay is really good in sports. And then in practicality, it doesn't always solve the issues. So I'm curious. I'm intrigued. A little bit like robot umps, right? Like I'm intrigued by it. Will it work practically? Like we'll find out. They're using it in the minor leagues. Will it work in the major leagues? Maybe.
I don't know. The thing with the robot umps, though, compared to what the NFL is doing, is you can look at pitch track and just go, oh, that's a ball, that's a strike. They don't go on the broadcast, oh, yeah, that's a strike, but, pitch track isn't accurate. It's wrong all the time, like they kind of do on the NFL broadcast. Right. Or like, oh, yeah, just you don't trust that line. We got to go by. That's not the official line. They'll say, yeah.
All right, let's get to our final question.
Did the Pacers choke last night in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals?
Okay, so I'm watching this entire game. I've said before, my wife kind of grew up a Pacers fan in the Midwest, so we're watching this game. I've been watching the Pacers the postseason solely because of Kristen, truthfully. And I am shocked. I am literally shocked there has not been more national outrage at the way the Pacers, quote unquote, threw this game away last night. And it has nothing to do with not fouling up 3. Not fouling up 3 in the front court. It's hard to foul up 3 in the front court. Any player in the NBA is capable of getting a shot off. Therefore, you're potentially giving up a 4-point play if you foul someone in the act of shooting and he makes the shot. That is not the reason I say it. I'm watching this thing in real time, Brent. I don't know if you did. They had multiple turnovers in the final minute of regulation with the lead. Multiple and basically unforced, one of which I think was Tyrese Halliburton bring the ball into the front court on the near sideline. He just kind of fumbled the thing away out of bounds at like 56 seconds. They still preserved the lead off that. Later, though, with 10 seconds left before the 3, they're inbounding near sideline with a timeout, and the inbound is essentially thrown away. It was a terrible pass, a dangerous pass. They had earlier in the final minute used their only replay challenge. Therefore, after this ball was arguably off a pacer, they had no challenges, and the ball went to Boston, and then Boston and Jaylen Brown hit that 3. We have spent over the course of time here at San Diego Sports 760, I've had calls, emails, texts, social media about the Aztecs having one turnover in a big spot in a college basketball regular season game. You'd think the sky was falling. The Pacers had, in the NBA, multiple huge turnovers in the final minute of regulation in the Eastern Conference Finals. And for whatever reason, the conversation today is about, why didn't they foul up 3?
Well, they were up 6 with like a minute 20 to go in the game.
Yep.
I'm putting a little bigger emphasis on them not fouling. It'd be one thing if when they inbounded the ball to Jaylen Brown, if he didn't like throw up 6 pump fakes before he just threw it up there,
right,
to where it's like you had time. You could have fouled him there. It wasn't like he caught it and then just shot it right away. So if you fouled him and, like you said, he would have had a chance for a 4-point play. He did enough pump fakes that I think you could have fouled him before he even got the shot off.
Potentially. It's a hard spot.
That was an ugly 3.
In the front court, it's hard. And let me explain why. First of all, there was 8.5 seconds left when they inbounded. If you fouled immediately, let's say 8.4, 8.3, you haven't guaranteed yourself anything. Because hear me out. It's a 3-point game. Let's say they hit 2 free throws. It's a 1-point game. And there's 8.3 seconds left. Indiana now, A, has to inbound the basketball. And B, will get fouled immediately. And should they not hit both of the free throws, there's still going to be like 7 seconds left. And I don't know if Boston had a timeout or not. I'm going to assume they did. They can then advance the ball to the front court. They would have had unlimited time. It's not like just fouling there would have guaranteed a win. And yes, it's a part of the story. I agree. It's absolutely a part of the story and something that can be discussed. Another part of the story, and by the way, their head coach took blame for the law. I mean, this final minute this thing was botched. There were 3, 4, 5 moments that if they had one go their way, they win the game. And again, will you see that over the course of a college basketball season? Absolutely. Can you see it in the NBA? Sure. In a regular season, I'm sure you'll see it. Game 1 on the road, you could take a 1-0 series lead and steal a road game, and you fumbled away in that manner. I just wonder how they rebound now after losing in that. Like, this thing was silver platter, not steal the entire series, but you're set up for a long series if you win game 1. And now all of a sudden, I just don't know how you rebound for game 2 if you're Indiana.
I think they'll be all right. I don't think they're going to win the series, but I think
right.
they'll rebound fine. They had a lot of rough losses in that Knicks series,
and they've been great at home.
Yeah, so
they were 3-0 at home in that series against the Knicks.
I think they'll be all right. And if you're Carlisle, you're telling them, we had this game. If we just would have closed them out and just finished, we would have had this game and we wouldn't be having this discussion. So let's just go out there in game 2 and just clean it up and we'll be fine.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, this thing, and by the way, I saw the ratings. Game 1 ratings were the highest for an Eastern Conference final game 1 in 6 years. So I think since LeBron with the Cavs, you'd have to go back a while. So
I was just going to say, we don't need you, LeBron. But
right. But I mean, I thought it was twofold. A, you got a really good game that went an extra 5 minutes. Okay.
Celtics have a huge fan base.
And you have the Celtics. Exactly. So you had the Celtics. Now, again, the Pacers have been a bit of an afterthought here in the postseason. We've talked about that, right? What does this mean for Jalen Brunson's legacy? What does this mean for Stephen A. Smith? Hold on. What about the Pacers here? But I thought it was encouraging from the NBA's perspective. Now I'm curious about tonight. Again, I think this has a chance to be a very good series. I think Dallas, Minnesota has a chance to be a very good series. I'm hoping from a fan perspective and an NBA like viewership perspective, I'd like to see a long series. I'd like to see one of those things, one of these two, go 6+ games. And I would suspect one of these two series goes 6+ games.
I would think the West. I just want to see, Ant-Man and Luka just trying to outscore each other, right, and just going at it for 7 games.
Yeah, you got star power. You got Kyrie. You got Karl Anthony Towns. Like, you got some big names.
The West has a lot. The East has some, but not as much as the West. The West just has a lot. Like we talked yesterday, I think Luka and Kyrie are the 2 best players left in the playoffs.
Yeah, and again, Tatum maybe gets taken for granted, doesn't have the same appeal. Obviously, some of these huge veteran players, and he's not as much of a veteran player. He's in his 20s as opposed to the guys we talk about all the time in their 30s. Jaylen Brown's a very good player. Tyrese Halliburton's a really good player for Indiana, but again, he's on the Pacers. Did they end up winning or not? They didn't win the play-in tournament because the Lakers did, right?
No, they lost the Lakers.
Yeah, they lost the Lakers. But they had a nice little run there earlier in the year.
Well, that was pretty much where they started the momentum.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, game 1, Western Conference Finals is tonight. Do want to remind you, stay connected with San Diego Sports 760, no matter where you are, whether you're stepping out of your car or settling in at home. Just command your Google or Alexa smart speaker to play AM 760 or use the free iHeartRadio app. For seamless listening, it's like having your favorite station right in your pocket. Again, a reminder, tomorrow at 4:30, Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez will join the show. Later this hour, today, this 4 o'clock hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Brothers Osborne at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater. That's May 29th, a week from today. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. Quickly to look back in on game 2 of the series between the Padres and the Reds. Remember, it was a really good start to the road trip. 3 straight wins against Atlanta. Now they've lost consecutive games, and they are in now the 3rd inning, or is it the 4th inning? They're in the top of the 4th inning. Padres struck on the first batter of the game, Luis Arias' first homer of the year. Cincinnati answered with a solo home run. So Nick Martinez against Michael King, game that's tied at 1 in the 4th inning. Padres have struggled to score here over the last 3+ games. Again, shutout yesterday. Was there a reason? Long travel day, 2 games the day before. Shutout in game 2. They have really struggled to hit left-handed pitching. That's not their issue today. They're facing a righty in Nick Martinez. This game's still very early. It's the 4th inning. They could score 10 runs. But again, their offense, Brent, we've talked about it, has been good this year. But for whatever reason, the last couple of days, it hasn't really shown up.
It's kind of like we always joke about, they could face, Catfish Hunter and they'll, get 10 home runs and score, get 15 hits. But, they'll face, Joe Smith, who's making his first career start and had an ERA in like the 6th in, the minors, and he'll come in and throw like 7 shutout innings and scatter 4 hits throughout the game. And it's kind of the same way this year with their bats, to where it's like, we think they're going to score runs this year because they're playing Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's pitching staff isn't the best. And then it's, now they just look like the 90s Braves, to where it's like we just can't do anything against them.
We will keep you updated on Padres Reds game 2 of a 3-game series in Cincinnati. On the other side, as Brent's been telling you in the updates, so the NBA is really going to have a rights deal.
I'm going to be so pissed.
And move on from the most iconic studio show in the history of professional sports in America. Really? That's next on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency. The Padres will be without Xander Bogaerts for at least 2 months as he test revealed a fracture in his left shoulder and he was placed on the IL today. The Padres called up veteran David Peralta, who they signed last week. The Padres are currently taking on the Reds in game 2 of their series. They lead 2-1 now going into the bottom of the 4th inning. The Celtics won game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in overtime last night, 133-128. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between Dallas and Minnesota is tonight at 5 p.m. Children of diverse backgrounds need and deserve a safe, loving, nurturing, accepting, and consistent place to live where they can thrive and mature. Any individual, couple, or family can be eligible to become a resource family. Visit SDCares, 4kids.com.
All right, your chance in about 15 minutes to win tickets to see the Brothers Osborne at the Calco's Credit Union Amphitheater. This is coming up a week from tonight. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. Keep listening for your chance to win. Again, at this time tomorrow, for fans of San Diego State, the Mountain West Commissioner, Gloria Navarez. We'll talk about a ton of topics. There's a lot going on right now. I mean, a ton in college athletics.
Should we invite her to Jim's wedding?
Should we invite her to Jim's wedding without asking Jim is the question.
You think Jim would be mad? He'd be like, God, you jerks, you invited the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference to my wedding?
I think he'd be okay with it. He's interviewed her before in person, like in Vegas.
Like a surprise.
Yeah, I think we could invite her. I don't know if she's in town. She's just going to join us on the phone. But yeah, I don't hate that idea. I do like that. So Gloria Navarez, Mountain West Commissioner, will join us tomorrow at 4:30. All right, there was a story today that Brent has been chiming in on during his updates. And it's a significant story. You've heard NBA fans talk about this for a while. We're moving towards officially official. I mean, the Sports Business Journal is reporting it, that the NBA, as Brent has been saying all day, is formalizing deals with Disney, that's ABC, ESPN, Amazon, a streamer, that's a new rights holder potentially for the NBA, and then NBC. Of course, NBC 30 years ago was a big part of the NBA on television around Ball Rock.
Dude, yeah, John Tesh.
Exactly, John Tesh. Pistons, Bad Boys, like that era, right?
Marv Albert,
yes.
The Jordan Bulls.
Exactly.
For people our age, this was the NBA when we grew up, was NBA on NBC.
So that alone, you hear, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, ESPN and ABC and NBC, their history, and Amazon. Well, yeah, streamers are getting involved in live sports, and then you hit the brakes quick. You're like, well, hold on. It's not that TNT doesn't have the rights to the games, although that could be significant. Kevin Harlan, they've done a very nice job with the NBA in terms of the games. But inside the NBA, this iconic show that has now been on the air for multiple decades, they've had multiple iterations, but with Charles and Kenny and Ernie, and now you've added in Shaq, this unbelievably memorable show for sports fans, not just NBA fans.
It's the best.
It's as good as
studio show in all of sports. And all of sports. That includes NFL and everything.
Some are good and some are bad, but this is the best. Okay.
And it's consistent. It doesn't matter what the game is.
It's just good.
You can always just tune in and just hear what Chuck has to say. And Shaq is constantly ripping on Chuck, and I'm gonna be so mad if
it's almost like if college football didn't have game day. You could argue whether game day's relevancy in sports history compares to inside the NBA. It's right there, though, is the point. It may be more impactful than college game day, but it's right there. It's on multiple times a week. It's been going on for 2+ decades. It's got unbelievable personality and hosts.
I'm not going to look, I love Kevin Harlan and everything, but I'm not necessarily going to miss the games per se being on TNT. For me, it's going to be pre-halftime and post. I subscribe to the House of Highlights on YouTube.
Yep.
And they will constantly just put up, the post-game show in like 10-minute clips, like every single night. And I will watch that every single night. I won't do that with Monday Night Countdown or any of these other shows, but this is going to be a shame if it
comes to an end.
If it comes to an end, NBC, Warner, or I think it's Warner Brothers Discovery owns NBC now. Or not
No,
NBC
Warner
owns
Brothers Discovery is the one with the TNT rights.
So they still have a chance. They can match
potentially, but
NBC's
apparently may be
offer.
hard to match because there's all kind of intricacies in there.
Well, that, and then you throw in the news that also came out today involving TNT, how they are going to be like a subsidiary of ESPN for the college football playoffs next year. So they're going to be forking over money for that now. So are they shifting focus to that and not necessarily on the NBA?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know, but this is what I do know. No matter what happens, TNT, TBS, Turner own NBA rights for one more year. This new rights deal takes effect after next season. Here's the other thing I know. Ernie Johnson, who's hosted this thing for forever and is beloved, has publicly said he will honor his Turner contract and would not ask to get out of it in the event that Turner loses its rights. With all that being said, Kenny, Chuck, Shaq can become free agents. You got to be, I mean, here's the thing. NBC getting back in this game for the first time in 30 years. Amazon getting in this game for the first time ever. You're telling me
you have to bring them with.
You're telling me there's no path. Turner wouldn't work with these right holders to let Ernie also do this show with that group. I just don't think. I'm a believer in if there's a will, there's a way. I just don't think the show ends. Turner's rights may end. I don't think the show as we know it ends. Now, could it take on some new look where you have Kenny and Shaq and Charles with a different host? I don't see it. I think you need Ernie Johnson.
I don't think they'd want to do it without Ernie.
And I think you need Charles Barkley, and I think you need Kenny the Jet. So I believe that before we say it's over, you got to see this thing out. And I feel like if there's a will, there's a way. This is big money, right? There's a lot of entities involved. I think the NBA understands the significance and the relevancy of this show, that they don't want this thing to die either, even if Turner loses rights with this next rights deal.
I almost wonder too, if say NBC does say, look, we bought the rights. We want to bring, you guys on the show over with it, because you guys are a big part of what made, the NBA on TNT successful. But Charles isn't going to be, he's not going to get away with as much stuff on being on NBC as he does on TNT.
What about Amazon?
Amazon, he will, because Amazon isn't really regulated by the FCC like NBC is. But NBC is, that's, your basic, what we used to call the Midwest, it's the Farmer 5. That is your basic TV. He's not going to get away with saying like the stuff he would say about like San Antonio and stuff like that
on NBC.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. TNT or whatever, you'd be seeing this inside the NBA multiple times a week on these Turner networks. Where would you even be seeing NBC's games? It's not like NBC is going to all of a sudden on Tuesday night on the real NBC be airing Rockets Thunder December 1st. Is this going to be Peacock for a large percentage of games? Is this good? I don't even know if NBC Sports Network exists. I don't think it does. So what percentage of these games would even be on NBC? Because right now we know it's the TBS Turner properties. With NBC, we keep saying NBC, like all these games are on NBC, but are they actually on NBC, or is it actually a streamer like Amazon?
I'm thinking they'll just go crazy on the weekends like they used to. Because, we were talking about when they had the rights the last time, that was like every Saturday and Sunday. Nowadays ABC will do Saturday, they'll do weekend games if it's the playoffs, and maybe like a scattered one if like they might have a Lakers, Warriors game on primetime one Saturday, but sure, it's really random and sporadic. It's nothing that's like just etched in stone.
Here's the thing. I'm going to hold out hope. Well, it doesn't look good for Turner right now. And like you said, they have some type of matching right. But from what I'm reading, it sounds like NBC is doing everything in their power, and so is the NBA, to make it almost impossible to match. They might be able to match dollars, but they can't match dates and windows and slots. And ultimately, it sounds like NBC has the inside track to potentially get these rights. But I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of Inside the NBA. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right, because I think it will be a significant loss for not just NBA fans, but sports fans in general. All right, on the other side, we'll update you on what's going on right now at the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati between the Padres and the Reds. Again, the Padres will be without Xander Bogaerts for the foreseeable future with a left shoulder fracture. Plus, coming up next, your chance to win a pair of tickets to see the Brothers Osborne at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater next Wednesday night. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com or with you until 6 p.m. It's Jon and Jim. All right, so maybe you're like me. It's late in your workday and you're just hungry and you don't want to eat something that's unhealthy and you don't really want to spend the money. So maybe consider Almond RX packs. It's a game changer if you're looking to curb hunger, eat healthy, and find a tasty snack as well. Eliminate the vending machine from your day. Get your daily immunity booster with the vitamin D. Everyone loves a healthy snack for their family. My wife loves them. My son loves them. You'll love them as well. Healthy, tasty, curbs hunger. Look no further than Almond RX. It's the first and only skinless almond fortified with vitamin D. It's got your daily serving of 23 almonds, and it was founded by a San Diego sports medicine physician. Almond RX is packed with nutrients, supporting your heart health, cellular health, and gut health. And you can find them throughout San Diego County, any Foodland, Harvest Ranch up in Encinitas in North County, or at almondrx.com, ALMONDRX.com. In fact, if you go there right now, you're getting free shipping, absolutely free shipping on your order of $25 or more. You heard me right. Free shipping on orders of $25 or more at almondrx.com. It curbs hunger, and it's perfect for the on-the-go lifestyle. Well, the bad news is Xander Bogaerts is out with that left shoulder fracture. Who knows for how long? It sounds like at least a couple of months, and that you would think would be significant. Now, they did get Luis Ariz, who plays a lot of second base. We'll see if they can overcome it. But the good news in the short term is the Padres have had another big inning. It's like they're made of them, and they were not a year ago. Like that's the one big 180 from last year. I think they've had 19 innings now of 4 or more runs. They're just back on 4 in the top of the 5th inning, and they lead the Reds 5-1 behind Michael King. So trying to bounce back if they hold on. Far from over, 5th inning, but if they hold on, all of a sudden you win tomorrow, you win a rubber match, you have a 5-2 trip. And a 5-2 road trip, I don't care who you're playing and when you're playing them, is a darn good trip. And then you come home and you try to figure out Petco Park, which has been, we talk about like Arizona or Coors is a house of horrors. Petco 10-16 for the Padres this year. It doesn't make any sense. So we'll see if they can figure out Petco. But right now, things have been good on the road, trying to get to 4-2 on the trip by holding on against the Cincinnati Reds. We'll figure, I don't really understand Petco. We had Kyle Glaser on earlier, and he's like, well, maybe it's not a large enough sample size. Okay, 26 games. Doesn't make a season. It's about 1/3 of a season at home. They have the Yankees this weekend. They typically play up to competition this year. Hopefully they play up this weekend to the New York Yankees. And I, you know me, I say marine layer. I don't even know what else I say. Hard to hit. Not a good hit. I don't know. I don't have a real explanation for it.
You know, that's one of those things we can say marine layer, but you know, it doesn't seem to affect the road teams for some reason.
Right. Yeah, I have a dumb theory on that, and I've shared it on the air before. I'll share it again. My dumb theory on why
the road teams don't know it's there, so it's not in their heads.
It's not in their heads is the theory. Of course, it's there. Whatever is there is there. So two teams.
Well, I mean, they're not used to it, so
yeah,
to them, it's just like just normal clouds.
If I play for the Phillies, and I'm playing one series a year in San Diego, I'm like, oh, cool, I get to go to San Diego. And guys like, well, it's not a good hitter's park. We're like, well, yeah, but we're going to bring the wives and the families and the girlfriends, and we're playing one series in San Diego. It's 3 games. There's no mental hurdle in playing a 3-game series anywhere. Like, oh my gosh, you play 80 games somewhere, and you're hearing about it constantly. Oh, marine layer. Oh, the weather's been unseasonably cool. Oh, it's been, it's hard to hit here. It's easy to hit during the day, but it's hard to hit at night. I just feel like there is a little bit of a mental gymnastics that goes on with the Padres at home.
Your camera's not on, by the way.
Oh, is that right? Why not? Oh, I see. Why not? Come on, John, clean it up. This is what happens when I do anything solo with Edge. I am not good with technology. Jim would be the first person to tell you that. Jim, for whatever reason, is like, if Jim has a strength, it's an if. But if Jim has a strength, he's really good with like social and like
that's
technology.
What he's doing for 3 hours is he's remembering to push these buttons that we keep forgetting to push.
Yeah, Jim is way better at certain things than we are. And by certain things, I mean like posting on social media and making sure our stream is active on YouTube. Other than that, we can hold our own. But that's where Jim really does excel. That's where we're going to be missing Jim, by the way. Jim, if you are unaware, is preparing, quote unquote, preparing for his wedding. He's playing around a golf right now. He's got his what do we have? I got to go to a walkthrough on Friday with Jim because I'm officiating this wedding. And then I got to go downtown Friday afternoon as well because we've got Naughty Barrel, Jon and Jim. Get you ready for Padres and Yankees, the return of Juan Soto to San Diego on Friday. I'm really looking forward to that, by the way. That should be a really entertaining weekend, obviously, and show on Friday. And then it's a rehearsal dinner on Friday night. And then we got wedding day. We've got wedding season Saturday up in Oceanside, where I'll be honest, I don't know if Jim is keeping an eye on it, Brent, but I am. I'm keeping an eye on the weather.
Well, I am too, because I don't have air conditioning in my car, so I don't want to melt driving up there.
I don't think you will, because it's only supposed to
like
be
66, something like that.
60s, a little bit of marine layer, cloud cover, May gray. But hopefully it's a nice day, seriously, for Jim and Aaron as they officially tie the knot.
Mostly for Aaron.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, this is more about. I freaked out Jim earlier today because I picked up my tux, right? I go to a Men's Warehouse. I'd gone in a couple of months ago, maybe.
You tell them it didn't fit or they forgot something?
Well, you knew it wasn't going to fit. Like, this was inevitable. They fit me, but I'm like, when she was fitting me, I'm like, is this right? Like, everything you're doing, it didn't seem overly right. So I go in and I pick up, I try it on. You have to try. Jim's like, you have to try it on. If you don't try it on, what if it doesn't fit?
That makes sense.
Like, sure, I'll try it on. So I try it on and I put these pants on. these pants are essentially shorts when I try them on. I mean, it couldn't have been shorter. Like my entire leg is showing. And I don't think that was the intent. Like, I don't think that was the
They're
look.
capris.
Yeah, they were like capris. So I immediately send a photo to Jim just to freak him out. I'm like, dude, we got a problem here. Like, and I sent him a photo of my leg, just like my entire leg, like hanging out the bottom of the pant. He's like, well, did you tell them? I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, are they going to fix it?
No, should I?
Here's the thing, and Jim might be listening right now. I have no idea. I don't think he is. He's on the golf course. And don't tag him. Don't let him know that I'm about to say this. So then the tailor comes out, and she's like, oh, how much should we add? And, she's doing, I'm like, I don't know. What would you add? She's like, I'm an inch and a half or 2 inches. I'm like, okay. And we weigh the pros and the cons of it. I said, okay. And they mark it. It's like, it'll be 20 minutes. So I wait, and they do it. And she's like, all right, here you go. You're good to go. Now, Jim, I didn't try it back on. I kind of trust I don't want to try it on again. It's so annoying trying on clothes. Is there anything more annoying? To me, trying on clothes is a reason not to buy clothes.
Yeah, I know. I tried on
so
clothes
annoying.
last weekend for the first time in a year.
Super annoying, right? It's just annoying. So I'd already tried them on. The whole process, this tuxedo, there's so many layers. I feel like I'm getting ready to go out sledding, in the snowstorm or something to put on a tuxedo. And so I didn't try them on again. And then Jim texts me. He's like, how's everything going at the store? I'm like, oh, I'm back home, dude. He's like, did you try on the pants again? I'm like, yeah. And then I told that to Kristen. And she's like, yeah, you probably should try them on again. So anyway, my point is I wasn't at this. I'll try them on again. Because if they don't fit, I guess I'll go back tomorrow. And they can alter them again. They should fit, right? They did it right there.
You think so?
I would think they'd fit. All right. If you are looking to see the Brothers Osborne a week from today, call right now because caller 7, you are going. Great giveaway. Here's the number, 877-767-4760. Caller 7, we have 2 free tickets to see the Brothers Osborne at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater. This is next Wednesday night. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. If you want these free tickets, you need to call right now. The number to call, again, 877-767-4760. 2 free tickets to see the Brothers Osborne. Call right now, 877-767-4760. If you missed our conversation with Kyle Glaser from earlier, we'll play that back for you coming up around 5:30 here tonight, and much more on what it means now that Xander Bogaerts is heading to the injured list. Hour 3 of Jon and Jim is next.
This report is sponsored by Schools First Federal Credit Union. Bad news for the Pods today as they learn that Xander Bogaerts will be placed on the IL for at least 2 months as tests revealed a fracture in his left shoulder. The team called up veteran David Peralta, who they signed last week. Currently in game 2, the Pods have busted it wide open here in the top of the 6th as they now lead the Reds 7-1. In NBA news, the Celtics won game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals in overtime last night, 133-128. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between Dallas and Minnesota is set to tip off here in about 10 minutes. Classified School Employee Appreciation Week is a time to honor those who wear many hats and go by many titles. In every role you play, every single day, the work you do puts students first. At Schools First, FCU serving you has been our privilege for the last 90 years, and we are just getting started.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's Jon Schaefer.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of Jon and Jim. We are with you until 6 o'clock tonight. We typically, in our final 15 minutes or so, have Jim's back page, which he then kind of does on the fly off his phone without having previously read the stories. It's kind of like a bit almost at this point. So today we're going to hand the reins over to Brent, which we do when Jim isn't here. The difference between Jim's back page and Brent's back page is Brent prepares it out.
Yeah, I've had it done since 2:30.
I was going to say, I guarantee you had your 3 stories. You probably woke up in the morning. And
I found some stuff this morning at 3 o'clock when I was going through my phone.
Oh, in the middle of the night, 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have a fully put together, prepped Brent's back page coming up later this hour. Now, I said on the way to break, I think, hey, if you missed Kyle Glaser earlier, we'll play it back for you at 5:30. We're actually going to play back BJ Davis, San Diego State sophomore guard, for you coming up at 5:30. Now, if you missed Kyle Glaser from Baseball America, it'll be at sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. Really good conversation. I mean, a lot of the conversation today about the Padres isn't necessarily about the game, although the game is a really good one right now for San Diego. They're well on their way, not officially official, but well on their way. They lead 7-1 right now in Cincinnati, trying to snap this mini 2-game slide, get to 4-2 on the road trip. Everything's really going well offensively here tonight, but there's a but, and there's a big but. It's that Xander Bogaerts is not only on the IL and not only unavailable here for the foreseeable future, he's got a fractured shoulder. So that's obviously a huge storyline for the Padres moving forward that's not alleviated by one game. I mean, any team can have a good game, and it's great to see the way the Padres have played today. Luis Ariz has been terrific. We've seen Manny Machado come through, Fernando Tatis Jr., Michael King's been really good. This is really encouraging. This is very encouraging what we're seeing tonight from the Padres against the Reds. But as we know, baseball isn't played over one day. It's played over, 162, right? So will the Padres be able to weather the storm without Xander Bogaerts? Now, some of you might be saying, that's kind of laughable. What are you talking? Will they be able to weather the storm without Xander Bogaerts? The guy hasn't hit. He hasn't performed. And some of that is completely valid. And I completely agree with what you're saying. If you're kind of yelling at your car radio right now, or you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, or you're watching me on YouTube saying, what are you talking about? We have Luis Ariz. He's the hit king. You're replacing the hit king with a guy that has a 500 OPS that can't get on base. This is what I would say, that in order for this team to reach its potential and its ceiling, they not only need Xander Bogaerts, they need Xander Bogaerts to perform. I don't believe you'll be carried all year by other combinations. Tyler Wade, nice player. Obviously, Jurickson Profar has been unbelievable. We're talking about different positions now with someone like Jurickson Profar. Luis Ariz is a darn good hitter, but you're not really asking him to play defensively second base all season long, or you weren't until the Xander Bogaerts news. David Peralta, right, is now active. He was in the minor leagues, veteran major leaguer that has spent a lot of his career in the NOS. So, yeah, Wade can help. Peralta can help. Solano can help. But for you to really reach your goals, to really get where you want to get, you're going to need Xander Bogaerts, or you thought you were going to need Xander Bogaerts. Who envisioned heading into the year A, not having Xander Bogaerts, or B, Xander Bogaerts having a career worst year, and then the Padres somehow winning like 89, 90, 91 games. I think that's a really tough putt that is somewhat hard to envision. And I still think, A, hopefully he comes back at some point later in the year. And B, when he comes back, hopefully he puts together a solid month or 6 weeks or beyond and helps this team, A, get into the postseason, then maybe B, win when they get in the postseason.
The thing that worries me is shoulders are such a tricky thing.
No doubt.
Look at, Tatis's issues that he had with his shoulder before he got the surgery done. Don Mattingly's career was ended due to a shoulder injury. We kind of poke fun at Chris Bryant now since he went to the Rockies and has just fallen off completely as a player, but he had the same shoulder issue that Mattingly had, and he's never been the same since then. So you'd like to think it's something that he could just bounce back from, especially if it was, it kind of reminds me of, remember when Manny missed time last year, but it helped rest injuries besides the one that he got put on the IL for.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Right.
So,
because he's been dealing with a wrist.
Yeah. So now not only will this give his shoulder time to heal, but we've kind of been debating, whether it's the text line or the YouTube chat about how exactly healthy his wrist really is and if that's been contributing to his struggles. So, maybe now he can kill 2 injury birds with one IL stint.
That is a really good point. Now, again, unfortunately, this could be so much time that it's not good for the team. It may ultimately be good for him, maybe this year or long term, if there is something that he's been dealing with. Plus, like you said, a shoulder fracture. I don't even know what that entails, Brad. That's massive injury.
Plus, you have to factor, if you just say it on its head 2 months, you're like, oh my God.
Right.
But if you actually look at the calendar 2 months from now, that's like a week after. That's around the All-Star break.
Yeah.
So we're going to have about a week and a half of just downtime where there's no games. So it's not going to be like, if he did this, July 20th or something to where
you're after the break.
Yes, to where there's no more big gaps or anything. To where here, say if he comes back maybe a little early, he could cut maybe 2-3 weeks off his time just because of all the off days we'll have with All-Star break.
I think that that's something to consider. I would also say this, like big picture Xander Bogaerts. Like think about this, where we were during the winter meetings in 2022 when they signed him and what that contract, what we thought it meant. The rest of his career would be in San Diego. Here's this guy that might be trending towards like the Hall of Fame. That's what people were saying at the time. Now that's been derailed, you would think, potentially based on this year and a half. And now you're talking about signing a guy to this big deal for $280 million. And the prime years, you're not even getting production out of. Like nobody even wants to think about 6-7 years from now. Those first 3 to 5 years always had to be impactful. Now you kind of have already crossed off year one. Not that it was the worst year in baseball history. The expectations were super high. Team didn't perform, nor did Xander too. I think his expectations or the fans' expectations. All right, that's year one. Year two has been worse for him personally than year one. And now you're going to miss him for at least the next couple of months. By the time you look up, it's the 3rd year of this 11-year deal, and he's not getting any younger. Now, that's not to say he can't be a really good player in years 3, 4, 5 of this deal. I'm sure he can. But year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're probably stretching it. But it's like you're paying for this 5-year window, not a 10-year window. And it feels like the first 2 years of the 5-year window, you haven't gotten return on your investment, which means you're going to really need to get it at some point.
In a way, it's like buying a used car that's got some miles on it already. You're going to get the best use out of that used car initially when you buy it, not 10 years down the line when you've thrown on a extra 60,000 miles on it and wear and tear and everything else.
Exactly. So that would be my concern. And I was surprised. I saw from Kevin AC earlier today. The initial tweet was that Peralta's up, Bogaerts the IL. Okay, it's a possibility. He had an injury in Atlanta. That was a possibility. He followed it up by saying he's got the fractured shoulder and he hopes to return this season. And you're like, whoa, that from IL stint to hoping to return. Now, Bogaerts is quoted by Kevin this afternoon before the game in Cincinnati. Here's a direct quote. I'll be back. I'm a quick healer, which I trust. He will be back. You've got 4+ months. I don't
he's
think
got
anyone,
plenty of time.
Yeah, and nobody right now is saying, hey, this is a 4.5 month situation. People are saying, hey, this could absolutely be multiple months. Where I'm going to give AJ Preller credit. You think about these last couple of months. He adds right before the season with Dylan Cease. He clearly needed starting pitching, and he got it. He added an infielder in Luis Ariz. It didn't scream a complete necessity. He had a second baseman in Xander Bogaerts. He still added Ariz and basically plugged him in as a DH. Well, now you lose Bogaerts. Good thing you got a Luis Ariz. Like, this looks way different without Luis Ariz, who's hitting close to 400 here as a San Diego Padre. Here's another signing that AJ Preller just made. Veteran outfielder that has hurt the Padres before and is familiar with the NL West. And that's David Peralta, who's now up. So, like, he's added depth is what he's done this year, because I think AJ maybe told Darren earlier this month on San Diego Sports 760, told Darren Smith that good teams have quality depth. And that has failed the Padres over periods of time in AJ Preller's tenure. And he's added legitimate frontline players this year, Cease and Ariz. He's added real depth, Donovan Solano and David Peralta. So now you have all those guys in the big league roster. Solano's up, Peralta's up, Ariz, of course, is here. Cease, of course, is here. So I think with all these moving parts and never knowing about health, you know that injuries are going to happen. You hope to dodge them, but you know that they're going to impact you in some way or another. And the Padres haven't fully dodged it. But what AJ Preller did was kind of build an insurance policy. And we'll see if it pays off or not. But it feels like there's a path because of what he did where they can hopefully see their way through this, considering Xander Bogaerts wasn't having some all-star year. He wasn't Jerkson Profar, you know?
Yeah, it seems like that's going to be one move that AJ made that we're not going to question a lot, because that's honestly, it almost seems like this is the best move that he's made just off the, right off the bat. It seems like, pun intended, just because we're not like, oh God, we got this guy and he's going to make so much. Ever since the day he showed up, he's just been doing nothing but perform, and he's been getting hits, and he's paid off more than, how many of these AJ trades does he make that they amount to nothing, or the guy just disappoints completely to where he just seems like we got a complete steal with this.
Yeah, no, listen, AJ Preller has been really good in terms of keeping the Padres relevant, but AJ Preller hasn't necessarily been really good in producing one of those teams over 162 that just everything goes right. Like, even if you don't win a division, because this division has the Dodgers and they might win 100-something games, you still, over his 10-year tenure, there's never been that, man, they're just sitting 16 games over 500 all year long. Isn't this great? They've had some stretches, started 2022. 2020 is so hard to really talk about because it was the short year. Started 2021, they were really good. You'd like to see them play well over 162. And even this team, with some of these big innings and, seemingly good trend lines, even this team, as we sit here right now, is technically under 500. Now they're leading Cincinnati in the sixth inning, 7-1. But even with a win today, they'd be a 500 team, and they're 2 games away from having played 1/3 of their games. So they're about a 500 team right now, 1/3 of the way through the season. Even though we've thrown out praise for Preller, we've thrown out praise for Schilt and this team a lot this year, but they still have a lot to prove, obviously. And I would say the hill only got steeper, seemingly, in the absence of Bogaerts.
Because their MO this year is we're going to beat the teams that nobody's going to think we can beat, and then the teams that everyone thinks that we should just crush, we're going to struggle and lose. And
right.
That's just been their routine this year is, oh, there's no way we're going to take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. And then we do it. And it's like, oh, great. We did that against the Dodgers. Now we got the low league Rockies. All right, there are. And then it's like, oh, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, no doubt.
And, we just need to, I don't know. You would think not say find a happy medium, because that's kind of where we're at. That's why we're hovering around 500
right.
constantly.
Win some, lose some, yep.
But we need to kind of find a little more balance between, just losing to the teams that we shouldn't lose. Bobby Cox, the Braves manager, always had that line about how, your goal is, you go in there and you win the series that you're supposed to win, and then you win a few series that you aren't supposed to win. And if you do that, you'll make the playoffs. And that's pretty much what they have to do. They just have to stop losing to teams like the Rockies and stuff like that, and just kind of find a more of a middle ground, and I think they'll be okay.
To your point, Kevin has written on the fact that he wrote on that exact point, which is it's really rare for a good team to be bad against bad teams. Like, I don't have the exact like to get into the postseason, bad against bad can happen because you've got the expanded postseason and the 3 wild cards, and there's like an example, like 1 or 2, but it is truly rare. Obviously, if you're not good against bad, then how are you getting in? Now, and this team right now is not good against bad teams, and they're good against good teams, and it's gotten them to potentially 26-26. The Reds have just scored a couple of runs. Padres that still have a 4-run lead. It's 7-3 in the 6th inning. So we'll keep our eye on this, okay? The other story, we've touched on this so infrequently, and, nobody talks more Aztecs and college athletics, truthfully, than we do. And Darren talks a ton of college athletics, but I mean, we talk a lot about it, obviously, on San Diego Sports 760. I didn't think this was like the greatest radio fodder, so I've kind of stayed away from it, but we'll touch more on it tomorrow with Gloria Navarez. I think JD Wicker has publicly commented on it. There's about to be a massive settlement in college athletics. It's called the House Settlement, to the point where it's being reported within the last minute by ESPN and Yahoo, those that cover it for a living, Ross Dellinger and Pete Thamel, that the deal's done. There's a settlement in this House case. What it means is still to be determined, but what its impact is going to be on college sports is so wide and far-reaching. The extent of which I don't fully comprehend, and there are those that do, but I think it's still to be determined. But ultimately, what's happening at this hour in college athletics is that the NCAA is settling a massive lawsuit that could have bankrupted it, that basically will pay back former athletes NIL pay for not having NIL opportunities. So all the NIL opportunities that have presented themselves over this decade essentially didn't exist in the NCAA structure. They were sued as a result of it, and they have come to the conclusion they will lose that case, and they have settled that case, the House settlement.
Okay, so hypothetically, say you were an Aztec from 2000 to 2002.
I don't know how far it goes back.
You're going to get some form of
years,
like reparations for not getting NIL money.
To the point of a settlement of nearly $3 billion. Now, this could have been way more if it went to court. The settlement will approach $3 billion. Now, the big conversation over the previous handful of days, if not weeks, is who's paying for it? And the argument, the back and forth has been, hey, this is the Power Four. The Power Four is reaping the rewards of this. Therefore, the Power Four should be paying the lion's share of this. And I don't know the full specifics here, but the truth is, it's not just the Power Four paying. The Mountain West is paying for this. The small basketball conferences around the country that don't have football will be paying for this. All of the conferences across FBS will be paying for this. Now, what it will do moving forward, Brent, once it's settled, is it may allow the NCAA a sense of stability, which is something that's like unheard of this decade, that the settlement basically will prevent, and I may be speaking somewhat out of term, but I believe the settlement ultimately prevents future lawsuits levied against the NCAA for a period of time in the NIL space. I'm talking about like a decade. So it allows them to get like their bearing and their feet underneath them and start making some rules and policies that will be applied across Power 4 landscape, Group of 5 landscape, and beyond. But this is something that we'll talk to Gloria Navarez about tomorrow, that we might touch on more tomorrow as well as some of this information comes out. I don't think anyone knows the full extent of what this is going to mean. It's absolutely going to be costly, so to speak, for the NCAA and its institutions, whether they're power institutions or not. We could talk to JD Wicker, hopefully at some point, about it as well, on the impact for San Diego State. But it is arguably as big of a lawsuit, I think, as the NCAA has had to deal with maybe in recent history, and apparently is being settled at this hour, which is a massive, massive story with huge ramifications moving forward.
It's just not a good week for lawsuits in college football this week, is it? That kid from Florida had that lawsuit for
$14 million,
like 13 point something million, and
So here it is. This is being reported right now within the last minute. Breaking news: the NCAA and power conferences have reached a landmark settlement with plaintiffs in the high-stakes antitrust case, a history-making development that is expected to usher in a new college sports financial model. Oh, that's the other thing. On the other side of the House settlement is essentially revenue sharing with athletes. Not necessarily to the group of five, but clearly coming to maybe a portion, if not all, of the Power Five. Let me explain. Essentially, if Ohio State has, I'm making it up, revenues of $100 or $200 million with TV and ticketing and all that, there'll be a set percentage that comes out of this. You can basically give up to 22% of revenue to your student athletes. Not every school will give that threshold, but let's say you have $100 million in revenue and the 22% is the threshold, then $22 million per year can be split among student athletes at Ohio State. Not every school is going to be able to divvy up 22% because they don't have it in their budget. But essentially, on the other side of this House settlement is some type of, I need to be careful with my terminology. I don't think it's technically pay for play, but some type of revenue share is coming to at least some FBS schools in some sports. That's what's coming on the other. And it's not coming, by the way, in 2024, but it does sound like it's coming in the fall of 2025. So this is crazy stuff, right?
Are we any closer to them putting a cap on NIL?
I think
because of
that's
this,
the other,
because
and
they're going
I
to
don't
have
know.
more of their financials in order that they would be able to say, look, the most NIL money that you guys can have, for school is, I don't know how much they have, but say, $90 million or something like that. Because that's the only way that it won't be fair either way, but it's the only way to keep, the Alabamas from just running away with everything, because they got so much alumni in the NFL to where they could just hit up all their NFL alumni for a check and, they have more NIL money than pretty much every non-Power 5 school.
The answer to that is maybe, but still to be determined. It might change the way collectives play a role here. But this is Ross Dellinger, who's been on the show from Yahoo 1 minute ago. Just here's the synopsis, Brandon, 3 sentences. 2021, the NCAA argues before the Supreme Court against sharing $6,000 of benefits with athletes. 3 years later, it's moving forward with a revenue share model that will pay athletes $15 billion over the next decade. Here's a quote from the article. It's the biggest change in the history of college sports. That's what is being determined at this hour, and that's what it's going to mean for the next decade. How's it going to impact San Diego State? We'll learn more with Gloria Nevarez tomorrow on Jon and Jim. On the other side, speaking of the Aztecs, BJ Davis, promising young sophomore guard, just finished up his freshman season. He joined us earlier on Jon and Jim on year 1 of the Mesa, his expectations for year 2. If you missed that conversation, we'll share it with you next right here on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. The Padres will be without the services of Xander Bogaerts for at least 2 months, as tests revealed a fracture in his left shoulder today, and he was placed on the IL. The Padres called up veteran David Peralta, who they signed last week. Currently in Game 2 of Padres and Reds, it is the Padres leading 7-3 in the bottom of the 7th inning. In NBA news, the Celtics won Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals last night in overtime, 133-128. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between the Mavericks and Timberwolves is getting set to tip off here momentarily. Staples can print anything you need to move your business forward, like banners, flyers, signs, and catalogs, some even same day. And now at Staples, save $50 on your print purchase of $150 or more. Offer ends 6/1. Visit staples.com/print for details. Staples, your local print and marketing expert.
All right, Jon and Jim back with you. We're with you until 6 p.m. We have Brent's Backpage coming up. Jim is off for the rest of the week. He's getting married on Saturday to his fiancée, Erin. We will be there. If you missed our conversation earlier, great to catch up. I think really the first radio interview with B.J. Davis, who was a really highly sought-after guard out of high school, spent his first year on the Mesa this past season, entering his sophomore season. He joined us a couple of hours ago. I started the conversation just by thanking him for joining us here on San Diego Sports 760.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure, having me on the show.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and I want you to describe for our listeners what year one is like. Highly sought after player out of high school, one of the top guards in the country, and then you come to a program with veteran guards, and other players have gone through this. So Miles Bird when he got here, or Lamont Butler, and others when they got here. So, what was the first year experience like for you from your perspective?
From my perspective, it was great. I learned a lot, having those veterans in front of me, just picking up on their habits every day, seeing what they do, what works, and really just being able to soak it all in. Like, that was a huge blessing for me, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
What was the biggest thing you'd say that you did learn? Like, what's the big takeaway from year one that you're going to utilize when you get on the floor next year?
Mm-hmm. I think just how I approach the game. And, my seriousness, I think that's really going to be my main thing I focus on, and try to really make sure that I bring every day, make sure my energy is always there, and, just having that type of stuff down.
So the season ends. I mean, it really hasn't been that long. You're in Boston. You get in that game against UConn. Remember, I think you scored the final points for San Diego State. I was there courtside. I thought you got fouled, by the way, on that final bucket. So the season ends. Where does your attention turn? Like, how have you spent these last 6-8 weeks, whatever it is, as you get ready for next year?
Well, I wanted to, hang out with my family a bit, just for a few weeks, kind of just decompress. But now it's back into the full swing of things. So I'm really just making sure that I'm more poised than ever. So I'm ready for any opportunity that comes my way. Just really locked in on the little things.
I apologize for cutting you off.
No problem.
What role are you hoping to play this upcoming year? You look at some of the subtractions, obviously, with some of the guards, whether they're graduating or entering, leaving via the portal, but some of the additions coming in via the portal as well. What are you hoping? What role are you hoping to play next year?
I just want to, wherever I can help the team out the most. That's the role I want, to just be that guy that gives it his all and, inspires his team to give it their all as well. So just being that guy that motivates everybody and gets the best out of them. That's really what I want to do.
San Diego State sophomore guard B.J. Davis with us right now. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Everyone that has ever, been a fan of the Aztecs understands to get on the floor at San Diego State, it starts with the defensive side of the ball. Brian Dutcher has always spoken so glowingly about your defensive abilities. Where does that come from? Have you always been known as kind of a defensive-minded guard, even coming out of high school?
Yeah, that's really how, I got on the floor in high school. I wasn't the biggest, strongest guy, so I had to, take it kind of personal and step out there with a chip on my shoulder and tell myself, all right, this dude's not scoring on me. And I think just having that mindset, it got me to this position that I am today in.
What was it like? So here's a first-year player, right, had all the success in high school, and all of a sudden, you're on this veteran team that played in a national championship game the year before you got to San Diego State. Then all of a sudden you're in a Sweet 16. And again, you got chances to play late in games against Yale, against the University of Connecticut as well. What was the NCAA tournament experience like for you?
It was surreal, just growing up as a kid, watching it on TV every year, and then you being out there. It's like, whoa, like, this is really it. So it was honestly like a full circle moment.
Why San Diego State? When you think back in your recruitment, again, coming out of Sacramento area, the state of California, what made San Diego State the right fit for you?
Just what they pride themselves on. And Coach Luster was telling me that, it being easy isn't always the best route. And that really stuck with me and that resonated with me. So I kind of took that, and that's how I kind of went about it. I talked with my family, of course, and, I have family down here, and some of my family was actually originated from here. So, and it was just a no-brainer for me, honestly.
We hear so much. I think Aztec fans are so aware of the role that name, image, and likeness plays now in college athletics, right? This is a new world, maybe not necessarily for you because you're entering your second year in college. So this is how it's been since you've been in college. But what role is something like the Mesa Foundation, the collective centered around San Diego State men's and women's basketball, playing for San Diego State student athletes? How significant is it?
Oh, man, it's honestly, it's everything because we get to build community and, they help us out financially. So it's honestly the best of both worlds, if you ask me. And just what we do for the community, how it can bring people together is honestly like no better feeling than that.
By the way, MesaFoundationSD.org. We've told you about this. We've had some guests on over the last couple of weeks. They are doing that matching campaign. It's going on now through the end of the month. When you think about the upcoming season and the roster that's being put together, and maybe it's not fully finalized, how do you feel? I know you guys haven't yet gotten on the floor. There's still plenty of time until November, but what do you think about the pieces that are being put together by the coaching staff?
Oh, I trust them 1,000%. They've been in situations to where, they've got plenty of experience. So I trust anything that they do or say. So just putting full faith in them and understanding that they have a plan and be willing to follow that by any cost.
What type of relationship did you establish in your first year with like a fellow freshman entering now his sophomore year, Miles Heide? What's that dynamic like as you guys go through your first, year plus at San Diego State?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a great relationship. It's like my brother at this point. So, we went through it together, and the rest of the freshman or my freshman class going into our sophomore year, we became real close like brothers. It feels like I knew those guys for 10 plus years, but it's only been a year.
When you think back on your first year, did you turn to some of the upperclassmen and ask about their experiences as a freshman? I mentioned earlier, like, hey, a Miles Bird, kind of took that backseat role for that team that went through the NCAA tournament. I think about Lamont 4 years ago, and he got on the floor like you did, but he didn't play a prominent role, obviously, when he was a freshman. Did you lean on some of the veteran players to kind of to help them explain the process to you?
Oh, definitely. Lamont, Micah, Jaden Ledee, those guys they're like my big brothers and plenty more. So just really, I was asking them a lot of questions, and they was giving me great insight on, the process and what it takes to be great here specifically. So definitely.
Jaden Ledee's an NBA player, right? I mean, you went up against this guy, you watched this guy in practice for a full year, you see what he did on the floor. Jaden Ledee's going to play in the NBA, right?
For sure. No question.
Coming off, obviously, an amazing year on the Mesa. Jaden Ledee, BJ, we're excited for you. We really are. Big year, big opportunity, obviously, coming up. Your sophomore season on the Mesa this fall. We appreciate you taking a few minutes for us, and best of luck. Any summer plans? Are you heading home, or what's your plan for the next handful of weeks?
Well, I'll be heading home tomorrow,
okay,
and then I'll be back in San Diego on next Tuesday. So, and then just back to work.
Back to work, getting ready for the upcoming season. BJ, appreciate it, man. We're looking forward to seeing you on the Mesa at Viejas this fall. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
All right, great stuff. Really promising young player in the program. We've seen so many of those young guards over the years develop into playing prominent roles. I think about Lamont Butler. I'm thinking currently about Miles Bird and BJ Davis. Hopefully the next young guard to put a stamp on San Diego State men's basketball. We're keeping our eye on the Padres and the Reds playing game 2 of their 3-game series. Padres with a 8th inning lead right now, 4-run lead, 7-3. So I'll have an update for you on the other side. Padres and Reds. Plus, Jim isn't here, but Brent is. So when Jim's not here, we have Brent's back page. That'll come your way next. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. All right, Jim may not be here, but Brent is. So Jim's back page becomes Brent's back page, and it's next. So real quick before we get to Brent's back page, Jon and Jim with you. So I don't know if this is up to date or not, Brent, but Luis Ariz today is 4 for 5. Okay. So he's up to 330 on the year between Miami and San Diego. He's been much better than 330 as a Padre. So at last check, I'm at MLB.com looking at his stats. He's hitting 382. This might be before his fourth hit. I don't know if it is or not. Either way, he's hitting either 382 or better than that. In, let's see, how many games? 16 games with the Padres. And this guy's been unbelievable. 4 hits today, 4 hits in his Padres debut. I think he's had multi-hit games and now either 6 or 7 consecutive games. So if you were looking for a guy to get on base, you know, this team will single you to death, so to speak. Luis Ariz is the perfect example of that. He's homered here today, but he's the definition of a guy that just singles you to death. But that's kind of who this team is. But what an addition. I mean, 382 over any 16-game stretch is a massive stretch for any Padre. And Luis Ariz has lived up to the billing to this point.
Well, especially considering, we've been, pissing and moaning for 2 years about guys hitting 220 and, hitting worse than that with runners in scoring position, to just have a guy in there that's just raking. He's not doing anything out of the ordinary, or, I don't want to say not special, but he's just going out there and he's just hitting.
He uses all fields, doesn't hit for power, although he did a homer today. Again, 4 hits in his debut, 4 hits here today, approaching 400 as a Padre. It has been really spectacular to watch. All right, no Jim, but let's get to it.
See, it's going to be almost just like a Jim's back page. I have a Star Wars story and I have an auction story, but we'll start with this. Jon, I think I probably know the answer because you don't know how to even ride a bike. Do you know how to roller skate?
When I was younger, Brent, believe it or not, I did know how to roller skate. I probably haven't put them on since I was, let's say, 13.
Okay, so yeah, I can't roller skate. I used to hate the middle school field trips to the roller rink.
Oh, man,
I couldn't skate. Things. I would just stay on the carpet and play Pac-Man all day.
Radnor Lanes, where I still can kind of envision them in my. It's been about 30 years. It's been about 30 years since I've been in one. Why do you ask?
Well, because we are getting a beachfront roller rink is coming soon to San Diego this summer. A retro-inspired roller skating rink is opening in San Diego over at the historic. Oh, hold on, my picture just froze. Hotel del Coronado.
So this would be an outside rink?
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense. Being at Hotel Del, being in San Diego, they would be outside. So, okay. So in San Diego, this is limited time this summer.
There we go. See, it is just like Jim's back page.
Jim,
my froze.
Freezing.
All right. It's inspired by the success of their annual holiday ice skating rink out at the Del Coronado Hotel.
Yeah.
They're bringing a rink to it's going to be from June 14th through September 2nd. The roller rink at the Del will be open daily. Guests will be invited to cool down rinkside with summer cocktails, snacks, and a cup of Dippin' Dots. General admission for the tickets for Hotel Del's roller rink are now available for the cost of $28 for general public and $25 if you are a hotel guest, and military and if you're military first responders. Tickets include roller skate rental and up to 90 minutes of skating. All tickets must be purchased online or by phone, and a portion of the proceeds will go to the C4 Foundation, which supports active duty Navy SEALs and their families.
All right, so 90 minutes, it includes the skates, and you're skating basically on the ocean in Coronado.
Yeah, outside, you have a great view. I guess they're setting up right where they have the ice skating rink every year on Christmas, so that should be pretty cool.
I like it. What else you have?
Oreo is joining forces with Star Wars, Jon.
Okay.
To create new Star Wars cookies, where they are going to be your standard Oreo with your chocolate cookie, but they're going to have Star Wars characters like kind of etched on top of the cookie.
Yeah.
And the traditional white cream is going to be replaced with red or blue, depending on if you are a Sith or a Jedi. Those are the good guys and the bad guys.
Be red.
Yes, very good, Jon.
The good guys, the Jedis are blue.
Yes. So
couldn't they go more colors? Like, could they have a Yoda etched one that has a green filling?
No, because Yoda's he's a Jedi. So
okay.
Jedi is just typically blue, and Sith are always red.
When are these coming out?
let's see. These will be. They're gonna have some sort of crystals. Hold on 1 second.
Soon.
Yes, soon. Oh, here we go. You can pre-sale online. You can online pre-sales started on Thursday, May 30th.
Okay.
You can visit www.oreo.com/Star Wars to order. The cookies will begin coming out in stores nationwide starting on Monday, June 10th.
Would you collect it? Like, okay, if you had a pack of these,
I'd buy one to eat and buy one to
one to
save.
collect. Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Because, it's Star Wars crap. If we've learned anything in the last 40 years is don't open it because it's going to be worth like a bit, it'll be in a future Jim's back page in like 20 years.
Exactly. I like it.
All right, then finally we have an auction story. The light up, Saturday Night Fever, John. The disco movie starring John Travolta.
Absolutely, yes,
okay.
Of course.
Well, the light up dance floor from Saturday Night Fever is expected to sell at an auction for somewhere around $300,000.
Did that include roller skating, by the way, that movie, or no?
No, there's no roller skates in that. They're just dancing.
But the light up dance floor is available at auction starting at $300K or went for $300K?
It hasn't gone to auction yet. The auction's in about a week, but they're thinking it's going to fetch around $300K. They said it's got the flashing colorful lights. It was the backdrop for John Travolta's character, Tony Manero. It was where he did all of his dance moves. They said 50 years later, this is part of the Hollywood Legends lot sale that is going to be held by Julian Auctions on June 12th through the 15th, and that's going to be in LA. Other items besides the Saturday Night Fever dance floor, let's see, they are going to have the Ark of the Covenant prop that was used in the original Indiana Jones movie, John Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay.
It was used for test shots for the film with cutout figures representing the actors next to it. That's expected to sell for upwards of $70,000.
Man,
according to the auction house. And the last item, Jeff Bridges' bowling costume, which he wears in the final 3 scenes of The Big Lebowski, could sell for as much as $200,000 if you want to wear the dude's outfit from The Big Lebowski.
Man, to have an extra $200,000 to just go splurge on an auction item.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be back tomorrow. The Padres have gone final with a win in Cincinnati. Their mini 2-game slide is over. They win today. They lose Xander Bogaerts due to a shoulder fracture. They win, though. Luis Ariz 4 hits. Michael King really good. And the Padres win it 7-3. Gloria Navarro's Mountain West Commissioner will join us tomorrow. If you missed anything today, check it out at sportsSD.com. Find us on social at Jon and Jim, JONANDJIM. Jim off today for Brent. I'm John. Keep it right here. It's San Diego Sports 760.